So, Sister Ann Ryan, formerly Sister Ann Kayleen, this is your life.
This is mine. And I want it to be on NBC too, okay?
No, this is just on ADS, Adrian Dominican Sisters.
Oh, okay.
So thank you. And I know we've tried this a couple of times, but we seem to be okay. So thank you. And let's begin. Now, we certainly are interested in some statistics of yours. However, what I'm really interested in, what we really want to know is just what's deep inside you that you would like to share with us. And certainly many of the places that you've been in your family life are very significant in your life. So you share what you want to share. And if you want to start at your beginning, please do. So
let's start at the very beginning.
That's right.
Okay, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I was born on November 12th, and it was 1936. That sounds like a goldie oldie, doesn't it?
You're sharing a secret that a lot of people don't like to share. Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Somebody followed me that same day. I had a twin brother, and his name is Jack. Okay. And I am 10 minutes older. And then I had an older brother, and his name is Tom. And so there were the three of us, and my mom and dad. And we really had a fun family life. Our family was small because my dad had no brothers or sisters, and my mom had one sister. So I had one aunt. And my grandparents lived, pretty much when I was in even into high school. So we were fortunate to have them. So we had a lot of family get-togethers. And I think what always was a fun time in the family is here in Cincinnati, not far from where we lived, there was what they call a hot tamale cart. Have you ever heard of hot tamales? Okay. So on a Friday night, we'd jump in the car and go down and get hot tamales and go sit on our porch. And guess what? I even got a little orange juice glass of beer with it. And that made the night. So we would sit on that porch, and it was just comforting to be with the family and enjoy evenings like that. Another aspect of family life that I think draws me so closely to family is many times we used to take a ride at night or in the evening. And so we would be together during those times. And also on the street where we lived, a lot of neighbor kids, even our parents would be over there. We'd be playing baseball or so it was, I would say, a lot of fun during my growing up in grade school and into high school. I went to St. William's Grade School, graduated in 1950, and went to Seton High School, which is an all-girls high school here. And I graduated from there in 54, and then went on to college, to Mount St. Joseph College, or university now. And all those schools were operated through the Sisters of Charity here in Cincinnati. And Peg, I'm so smart. I went one full year and decided I could teach. And in those days, you could teach on a temporary certificate.
Right.
So
right.
I found myself a teaching position at one of the schools here, grade school. And what you don't know about me, which you would be surprised, I began as a gym teacher. Me, who would run from a gym at this point. But that was 1 year, and then I went into a classroom. But during that
what did you learn about yourself when you were a gym teacher?
I learned I shouldn't do it for 1 year.
But you lasted for the year.
But I had fun with the kids in there anyway. They, thank goodness, they like to come in, and I didn't work them too hard, So I knew that was not for me. So, but it was my start. And I used to see these sisters in white walking on Glenway Avenue, a big street here in Price Hill, Western Hills. And I thought, I wonder who they are, because they always look like happy and fun and little full of the devil now and then. So that attracted me. Not that I'm full of the devil, but that attracted me. And I found out they taught at St. Antoninus, and they were called Adrian Dominican Sisters. And so I thought, oh, I'm going out there and apply for a position. And that's how I became acquainted with the Adrian Dominican Sisters.
Interesting.
Yes. So I taught with them for 1 full year. And see, I was so attracted to them. They drew me. And I entered in 1959.
Okay. And how was that for your family? You were older.
I think it was real. It was difficult. You know, I was the only girl. And, but they never, they wanted me to wait until I finished college. But I went in anyway. And they were supportive. You know,
that had to be hard. Your family it seemed to be, your family together is a real important value to you.
Right. So yes,
what call got you?
It was very difficult, but it was something did any one person draw me there to religious life? What drew me? I really can't say, except I was drawn to, maybe even in my early days, to be active in the church in some way.
Okay.
In fact, when we were little kids, we'd go to our grandparents and we'd play mass, you know. And of course, I was always the priest. So I thought maybe I could be that, but I had to change my mind on that. But so I think I was always attracted to religious life, whatever that meant for me at that time. You know, I think you do things sometimes spontaneously. I never sat and pondered why I should be doing this, but I just felt it in my spirit and heart. So I entered, and I think you went in June at that time.
Correct, yeah.
And the thing is, when I was in there, because I was teaching and because I was older, I was 22 at that time, they sent me out to teach in Detroit. I forget the name of the parish, but they took me there. Sister Margaret Phillip was the apostolate mistress at that time. And they were going to have me teach 2nd grade. And Peg, I didn't even know how to print. And I thought, oh, I don't think I'd like this. And then I walked into the house and they were about to go to prayer. And they told me I was to be the head Dominarian. I didn't even know what that was. But I got the middle.
Explain, so people watching this will understand. You were the leader of the prayer.
The leader of the prayer at that time, yes. And the one who got in the middle aisle and chanted first. Yeah.
And everyone had to follow your intonation.
Oh, yes. I should have let him astray a little. But I was so taken back by all of that. And then it was a weekend that I went there. So then we went down they watched Lawrence Welk. And I thought, oh my, if anybody asked me to dance, I'm out of here. And all I could think about is my oldie friends here that I grew up with were watching me and saying, what is she doing? And I was saying, what am I doing? And then a movie came on and I was so glad. But guess what? the bell rang. It was time for silence. So that ended that night, except my silence was in my room crying.
Uh-huh.
Never felt such a loneliness and an anxiousness of what am I doing, you know? And so I just wasn't ready for that, you know. So the next day I went to the superior and I told her, I think I have to go back to Adrian. I can't do this. And she said, honey, get a shower and you'll feel fine. Well, by the end of that weekend, I probably looked like a prune because I had many showers.
But you stayed there. But you stayed there. But you stayed there.
For the weekend. Yeah, I had a weekend trip.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so then I went back to Adrian. They took me back to Adrian, and they asked me if I wanted to go home or back to Adrian, and I chose. Oh. I chose to go back to Adrian.
Okay.
And at that time, the sisters that were there at this parish where I was sent came walking through the auditorium there, and they said, the next person we see, we're going to ask her to come back with us. Well, guess what? It was me. I nearly fell over. I said, no, thanks. I don't think so. But they did send me to the academy to teach. And
the academy is St. Joseph Academy in Adrian on campus. Yeah.
Right. St. Joseph Academy. And so, again, I was way away from the life of the postulancy, whatever that meant. You know, the being with the people you came in with.
Right.
Trying to get used to that kind of life. But certainly it was a change from my life at home. And so then I had an experience in the classroom where we had a boy who was quite active, quite challenging, and it did nothing to earn an A. And so I had to give him, I think I gave him a D, or I don't, you use those marks, you know. So the principal at that time told me I had to change it to a higher grade because his uncle was some important priest or bishop in Chicago. And you know, Peg, that just triggered something within me that's not how I live. I've lived and brought up with a sense of justice. And for me, that wasn't just. And that I can't tell you how that bothered me at that time.
And so what did you do with that?
Well,
with those feelings.
What I did was told him I was leaving.
Leaving the congregation?
Yes.
Okay.
Left the congregation. And
do you think that was the underlying reason or the only reason perhaps that you felt you didn't belong?
I think it triggered.
Yeah, it was a very significant one, perhaps, that did the trick.
But it was something that triggered probably the fact that, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
Probably.
So how long had you been in? You entered in June?
Probably went in June and left, I know, it was a week before Thanksgiving. So it was about 3 or 4 months.
So you had a very full 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
You had many experiences.
Yes.
Yeah. So then how did your family take it when you decided to come home?
I mean, you know what? When I think of that, I know they were pleased, especially my mom. But they never said they encouraged me, or they said, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah. So
that made me feel good to know that they were proud that I was there, you know. or okay with it. But I said yes. So I came home and um, I taught at St. William's School because
There in Cincy? In
yeah,
Cincy?
because
Mm-hmm.
they had an opening. So I finished my year there. Um,
Okay.
so my life has been always in a ministry.
Okay.
You know what? My first ministry at 14 was
Mm-hmm.
selling candy at the theater.
That's
So
good. Yeah.
so I've
Yeah.
had, so I've worked pretty much all my life, but I like to call it my ministry,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it is.
Okay, now we're going to have to move ahead a little bit.
Okay.
So you came home and
Yeah.
then you started teaching, but you re entered the congregation. Can you tell us what was going on at the time that you made that decision to return?
I entered 5 years later at the age of
Okay.
28. And I guess during that span of time that I was home, I was something within me was still drawn to this community living, to because I used to enjoy staying at school, talking with the sisters. I would take them, drive them here and there, and I was dating a guy that I thought I would marry, but
Mm-hmm.
something within me said I have to go back, and that was harder
Uh-huh.
than the first time.
Yeah. You
I
certainly responded to a call. You can't
well
explain it, but you knew it was a call.
that's the only thing that I just constantly, every time I went out with my boyfriend, I felt this drawing. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, I told him that I couldn't date him any longer, and um, checked out to see if I could go back. And so that's when I went back. And after I graduated from the college, then I kept going nights, summers, and Saturdays
Okay.
for 10 years. I had a great long education.
Mm-hmm.
So I in 1964, I graduated in 63 from college, and I went back to the convent, to the congregation in 64.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who?
And of course, you were different because you had different, and so was the congregation in 1964.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes I still struggled. I thought, oh, my car, what am I doing here? Different. I miss the family most. And but I would confide in Rosemary, and I think Rosemary, because she listened to me. She
Rosemary Ferguson.
Yeah, she listened to my heart. She was the um, postulant mistress at that time, and then moved on with us as novices. And so I think she knew my pains. She listened to my heart, and I think she helped me through some of
Mm-hmm.
that loneliness
Mm-hmm.
and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
that I experienced there.
So then, in moving on, you came back and you seem to have been settled, and you did some teaching experiences, but you also have been involved in ministries other than teaching. Do
Right.
you want
Yeah.
to tell us a little bit about your pastoral work?
Well, when I was at Saint our Blessed Sacrament in Toledo, we had open placement, and I forget who was it called me and asked if I would ever be principal at St. Pius. And I thought, oh, I've never been one before, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody who was at St. Pius left. So I became principal, and we had a great group of teachers who came over: Joan Christian, Mary Quenville, Joyce Caulfield.
Nice. Uh-huh.
Uh, and we also had a very supportive and caring community, which is so helpful. And so we had some challenges there, but we came through it together.
That's
And
good.
then I always wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
And I guess I just didn't have the knowledge for it. I wasn't scientific enough, I guess.
You had the compassion and the passion for it, but not,
Right. So then there was this CPE program at St. Vincent Hospital in Toledo, and Margaret Younglove was going to take it, and Arlene Mueller at that time she was one of the CPE leaders. So I thought, chaplain. So I went and took the course and became certified, because you could be certified on one unit at that time. And I was really proud. I loved working in the hospital or ministering in the hospital. And I found that in Columbus, Ohio, Mount Carmel East, it was run by the Holy Cross Sisters from Notre Dame, needed a chaplain. So I thought, I'm going to call them. And so I called. Her name was Ann Shaw. She was the director of pastoral care. And I asked her if she would have an opening. And she said, well, you know what? We were looking for somebody for the summer. Would you be interested? I said, oh, yeah, I would. And she said, I said, would you have, told me, would you have 2 openings? Because Margaret was looking for a position too. And it was been nice to have a community, So
you and Margaret Younglove went there, and you were together in that hospital. Did they hire you for good at the end of the summer?
Well, they kind of liked us, so they said, hey. And then our communities were always, we were together a lot on weekends and became very close. So they said, would you like a permanent position? Well, we were so excited, and it just gave us such spirit to be a part. And then Ann Shaw went to the mission somewhere for a time, so she asked if I would be the director. Oh, let me put this back here. Be the director, and so I was director there for a time, and then there was some challenging thing that happened. I don't know, but the CEO said we bringing in somebody else to be director of the East and West. So you can either leave or be chaplain. So I love being chaplain, because even when I was director, I was always, my leadership style was always one of team. I felt that was so important. So part of that team was I was on the calendar to be called in at night like everybody else. I had a floor. So I just loved my time there at Mount Carmel. And then
and we're gonna, we have 30 minutes.
Okay.
And so
you get me going, Peg. You get me going, and what happens?
And you're rare, because you have had 3 chances so far to tell your story. But as you look back on your life, you certainly had many challenges. You lost your dear friend Margaret, and that was difficult. And family members are difficult. But you have been there in Sensi. They've been blessed by your presence, by your ministry, the people in the little complex that you live in.
Right.
If you had one experience that you feel, I'm sure you had many, that you feel really transformed you, with, briefly, can you just share what that one experience was, and what was it that changed you?
Do you know the one thing that touched my life, and I still think about it deeply, was when I retired in 2014 at
Uh-huh.
Bailey Retirement Center, where I was director
Mm-hmm.
for 14 years. Um, they wanted to have a reception for me. I said, no, I would just like to have a mass, just a mass with my team.
Mm-hmm.
And Peg, I think what touched my heart, because I can't forget it, is the day of that mass, the enrichment center, which is a big area. Peg, it was filled with, it was filled. It was filled with people from my life. My family were there. My Goldie Oldies that I went to grade school and high school were there. Staff who, never come in on their day off were there.
What did that say to you?
It said to me that somehow in my ministry, I must touch people, that they would come. Even a woman whose mother-in-law was there at Bailey, I looked in, and there she was. She said, I heard about this mass and I wanted to come and be here with you.
Oh, how
And
beautiful.
then they even honored out here in Delhi where Bailey is. They called it Anne Ryan Day. So that one thing touched, and the day began by Mary Jane Levinsky calling me and singing, "This is the day the Lord has made." And I thought, God, it was so, I get chills even talking about it, because it was the most passionate day, because I looked out and saw all these people's lives. A woman came, one of the nurses came from Columbus, Ohio to be there for it. And so that experience has touched my life.
I can tell it's very. Is there anything else that we would be surprised at? We would say, "Oh my gosh, not Anne Ryan." Yeah. Is there something deep within you?
Well, I'll share this with you.
That you could briefly share with us.
Yeah. But you know what? I don't know when it started, or maybe it started after retirement. I don't know. But I deal with anxiety. And somebody said to me, "Oh, Ryan, you have anxiety?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I probably hide it pretty well. And I feel free to say it, because that's a part of me. Good. And I deal with it, and I share it with people. So I think that gets me through some of the anxious time that I experience. So I can still be, "Oh, Ryan, sit down and behave."
Yeah. Where might the Spirit be leading you at this time of your life?
That's a big question. God knows where the Spirit is leading me. Some days I get up and say, well, the scripture for me at this point in my life is eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah. Well, that's right. We're telling this story in the midst of our pandemic, which is we have not experienced that before. Yes. So these days,
it has, as I sit here in the house, I'm more in prayer and more reflective as to what are the next months going to be for me. What changes am I going to have to face at this time in my life?
Is there one in particular, or a couple that you are most fear or most anxious, I should say, about facing?
I think everybody knows my heart is in Cincinnati, and to leave it again is a real struggle.
That's right.
I do not want to be a burden on any family here or friends. So when I see I'm unable to care for myself, then I know it's time. And you know what? This time that we're dealing with, this still time and all, I think it's a challenge to take a look at that life more closely in what you're dealing with, you know.
Is there, as we have to draw this to a close, is there something else you want to share with us that maybe you had that? I know I sent you a couple questions.
Yeah.
That maybe you were sorry I didn't ask you.
Well, some of the maybe qualities that who I am, and I always feel like I've been a very authentic person. I love people. I was blessed, I think, with a sense of humor. My parents gave me that gift, I think. I feel throughout my type ministries, I've become a good listener. I'm a good listener, and I think that's why people reach out and, I touch their lives, they touch my life. I think I've had grown into good leadership qualities. And, sometimes to put those aside now, I just feel that part of my life of active ministry is changing.
That's right. It's ongoing. We all continue our ministry, but it's got a different kind of focus than what we're used to.
Right. Yes. Well, I'm still ministering in different ways.
Yeah.
It's different now.
Yes.
But those are some of the, qualities that I feel I've brought to my ministry and to my life.
Is there a certain motto or a scripture saying that is very special to you that you would like to end with?
Well, I told you that eat, drink, and be merry, but what touches my life always? Watching the movie Sound of Music.
Okay.
Because I feel like I feel like I was her, because she entered, left, kind of ran to the hills and sang. And
you never got married, I hope.
No, I was close. I know
you were.
I think to me that was almost like a scripture to me of seeing that life. She did it so well, and with spirit. Yes.
Okay. All right, Anne, we're going to have to draw this to a close.
And you want me to sing? You want me to sing Sound of Music with? I go to the hills.
Well, let's hope that this recording works. And in the name of the congregation, I thank you for your perseverance and patience with me in trying to do our sister stories this way. I just figured this is a perfect time to get more sisters at a distance.
Yeah. I thank you for asking me,
3 times
to do my life.
God bless you, and thank you for who you are. Thank you. Just know when you make a decision to come to our part of the country, we will welcome you with open arms. You'd be delightful in chaplain work at the DLC. But thank you for who you are, and continue as in the ministry that is so needed that you do by your presence.
Thank you.
So
thank you, Peg.
Bless you, and thank you again for doing it.
Thank you for inviting me to do this.
Okay.